touch that area because majority of them are there. And if they're going to reiterate, then they're going to start from there. But then what's happening on the ground is that we're saying that the youth are getting used now for these demos. But when you talk to the youth, they're saying, ibe ya mafuta ndio natufanya tuenda kwa street. I've interviewed them here in the studio. They're saying, we have no problem with the Finance Act, but you can't push us to the wall to that level. Is it a disconnect in implementation, just like Tom is saying?
For me, I feel like as the youth in this country,
yes.
we have not really had a conversation of what we want and what we expect. Because even during campaigns, most of the promises were made. Yeah, I agree with Tom.
Yes.
The timeline is not okay. So when we talk about the cost of fuel, the cost of fuel, as I said earlier, is an international crisis. It's external factor, not us actually.
And yes, and
but now,
yes, even as you say that, it has always been, even in the previous regime.
Yeah.
Yes, but even as you say that, even the same youth are aware that the courts did stop the government from introducing the 16% VAT on fuel. But then it was introduced, Naipamei.
Yeah, it was introduced, but that's the only way the government can raise money to pay the salaries of civil servants and for your
yes.
MP
yes.
and for, like, when things go bad, before we started the show,
yes.
you had those citizens asking the government to refund them for the vandalization of their equipment by people who are in Maandamano. Where does the government get that money? It's from the taxes that we pay. But I'm not saying that we don't have a right
yes.
to say, hey, these taxes are more. But what I'm saying is that we need to be organized as youth.
Yes.
The first step for us to get what we want is be organized. Once we are organized, we now request for appeal for the government to listen to our needs. We give them, they already know their problem,
yes.
but they don't know the solution and how to implement it. So where we come in, we push them to implement the solution that we know it best fits us.
Yes.
But when we don't have that organization, then as one person or two, you cannot, or you can only help yourself or the few. But when we come together and organize ourselves and articulate our issue in a professional way, the government will listen to us. The reason why youth are taken for grant in this country is because they know we are not organized. We never agree on a certain issue and say we are moving forward with it. We are always like, no, come and see Mimi, then I can't do this and this.
Would you say that the youth agreed with the way that the government was going to run when they overwhelmingly voted for Dr. William Ruto? Would you say that that was the organization of the youth? That we do agree that whatever you've promised, we are going to vote for you. And second question as well on that particular issue, I can see Tom smiling over the other side, is does it concern you as a youth when you have double speak from your president? We have him saying we are not going to introduce taxes on fuel. He campaigned and pushed the previous regime to reduce taxes on fuel, saying this would affect the border guys. There's a place we're not supposed to touch. Turn around, a couple of months later, 16% VAT on fuel.
Yeah, so anyway, for the border guys,
yes.
he has introduced e-mobility.
Yes.
And 2 weeks ago, he donated 60 electric bikes. And that is like a step. It's not like he's just talking. Okay, I'm not saying that that is enough. 60 is not enough because we have 3 million border guys in the country.
Isn't it?
Yeah, so it's a start of positivity. There's always a start of everything.
Even as you talk about that, the power costs are going to go up by 63%. So even as we celebrate the e-mobility that come into the country, power costs again are going to shoot up. But if you go back to the previous regime, they were pushing for power reduction costs up to 30%. That was essentially deleted by President Dr. William Ruto. So is that no double speak? So how do we expect the youth to be organized in such kind of an environment?
The youth should be organized because when you're facing the government and wanting them to implement things which will favor not only us, but even the future who are young right now, is you give them facts. Even the tax, there were actually 16 taxes in petrol levy and stuff. Yeah, there were 16 of them. They are usually like when you go even in the supermarket, you find out that you're being charged a lot of things, taxation and stuff like that. But we don't read them.
Yes.
Yeah, so out of 16 of them, they have actually reduced some. But we only focus on the one that we know. that it is being increased to 16% from 8%.
Yeah.
But the rest, which
Yes.
were like 3%, 4%,
Yes.
if you combine them together,
Yes.
you find out they've actually reduced a lot. But because we only know one, which is major,
Yeah.
when it is increased, we get to like get emotional to it.
So, but
but sometimes
yeah,
it's
the
not
venture
even
cost-
citizens who are emotional with it. It's just a narrative. If
Yes.
I'm Kaikai and I am an MP, let's say in constituency W, and I want the government to give me some contract, but the government is saying, hey, we're not giving you this contract. But I know of something that will be emotional to my constituents. This is what I will do. I'll focus on that, and I'll make it a pain in their ass, and I'll get their wave, and I'll prove the president that, you know what, I have a following, and if you can't give me what I requested, I'll keep on pushing you. That is exactly what is happening in our country. It's not necessarily that, okay, let's go back. In 2003, 2004, the cost of sugar, the cost of bread and milk was less than 20 shillings. But right now, as every year comes, as technology advances, as the world population grows, the cost of life goes up. So it doesn't even have anything to do with a new government or an old government. Things are always going to be expensive at any given point. The question is, do we have a favorable environment that even if today the cost of life goes high, I can still be able to feed my family. I can still be able to stand for myself. That is the question. And that is what we should be talking about. Can the government, together with the opposition, because we are all Kenyans, provide this favorable environment whereby Kenyans will be able to get a source of income. Now, no matter what challenges come across, that it will increase the cost of basic commodities, we won't feel like we cannot afford. But because when everyone is getting a source of income that is reasonable, if things hike up, the companies can be able to add up something according to inflation increase rate. But because we don't have to, we are not having that real conversation, which really, because the cost of living, people are feeling a pain, is because number one, where you are employed, you're being paid 30,000. Inflation rate has gone high by 7%. You are not being paid an extra 7% of the increase of inflation. But if that would have happened, people wouldn't have been complaining because you will be at par with the cost of living. So that is, I feel like that is the real conversation our parliament should have and Kenyans should have, and they should present their needs and concern to the institutions which deals with this.
Tom, let me take you back a little bit, and this is a question that I really want to get from Naipamei this morning. Is that we are saying, we as youth in this country are not really organized in the way that we address our issues as